She looks too ghetto. The words landed before she even crossed the taped X on the floor, loud enough to echo, quiet enough to be called a whisper. Tamia heard them anyway. She paused for just a second, not enough for the panel to notice, but enough for her spine to straighten. Her fingers tightened around the edges of her manila folder. Inside were 5 printed photos from her cousin's cracked iPhone and a handwritten contact number. The other girls clutched iPads, glossy comp cards, agency portfolios. Tamia had stapled hers last night on her bedroom floor. The casting room was bright, cold, and white like a showroom. Everything buzzed with polish. White walls, white floors, white agents behind the table. She was the only one in line not wearing beige or black. Her outfit was a mosaic of color. Fire orange jacket she'd thrifted for $4, a neon bandeau tucked under it, and a skirt made from repurposed denim she'd stitched herself. Her heels didn't match, but they made her legs look long. Her hair was braided into 2 tight buns, gold cuffs glinting beneath the fluorescent light. She looked electric, and they hated it. The white woman who muttered the line didn't even lower her eyes when Tamia reached the mark. She just sipped her iced coffee and leaned into the man beside her. The man didn't laugh. He just smirked, flicking through something on his clipboard. Next to them, another white woman was already writing something down, without even asking Tamia her name. Tamia introduced herself anyway. "Hi, I'm Tamia Taylor. 17, 5'10". "Who's your agency?" the woman asked, still not looking up. "I'm unsigned," Tamia said, "but Instagram?" the man cut in. "Don't really use it," she said. That was the end of it. They didn't even take a picture. No walk, no questions, no measurements. The first woman raised a hand like she was swatting a fly. "Thank you, sweetie," she said flatly. "We'll be in touch." Tamia stood there for half a second longer than she should have. The silence in the room grew stiff. She gave a quick nod and turned. Behind her, the next girl in line, a blonde in head-to-toe Balenciaga, leaned toward another and whispered something. They both giggled. Tamia didn't look back. She stepped out onto the sidewalk, folder still in hand, heart pounding in her chest. She didn't cry. She didn't curse. She didn't scream into the air like someone who'd just been humiliated. Instead, she walked 5 blocks to the Bronx-bound subway and sat down across from her own reflection in the window. "Too ghetto," she repeated under her breath. The phrase didn't sting like it did inside the room. Out here, it rang different, like a challenge, like something she might one day stitch into a sleeve, like something the world would wear. Not yet. Not today. But soon. The hallway in her mother's apartment was barely 2 feet wide, but it became her runway. Every night after her shift at the smoothie bar, Tamia would line the hall with shoes, stack 2 books on her head, and walk like the world was watching. Her little brother thought it was hilarious. Her mother didn't say much. But every time she passed the hallway, she straightened one of the books with a single finger. At 17, she'd been told she was too ghetto. At 18, she stopped waiting for anyone to decide what she was. She started borrowing old issues of Jet and Ebony from the corner barber shop, dissecting every pose, every gaze. She studied Naomi Campbell's posture like scripture. She slowed down runway clips of Iman walking in Mugler, watching how her shoulders rolled, how her eyes never blinked. She enrolled in free fashion night classes in Midtown, mostly taught by ex-stylists trying to stay connected to the game. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. When others practiced their walks for the instructor, she practiced hers for herself, at home, when no one was clapping. By 19, she had saved enough to buy a second-hand DSLR from the pawn shop in Queens. It wasn't perfect. The battery held half a charge and the lens had a scratch on the edge. But it was hers. She used it to take photos of herself in self-made outfits. Patch jackets, reworked jeans, chain link earrings crafted from hardware store leftovers. She shot in the alleyways near her building, on subway platforms, on the cracked rooftop above her aunt's place. Her backdrops weren't curated. They were real. She called the blog Fire Escape Looks and posted once a week. No captions, just images. The first few months, no one noticed. Her posts got 3 likes, one from her cousin, one from an old classmate, and one from a spam account trying to sell waist trainers. But she kept going. She didn't try to look rich. She tried to look loud. Rich wasn't the goal. Real was. Eventually, a stylist from Bushwick reposted one of her shots with the caption, "She understood the assignment." A micro-influencer DM'd her asking for a thrifted version of one of her jackets. An upstart magazine sent her a message. "We love your look. Want to shoot with us for a streetwear piece?" She said yes, even though she had no idea what to charge. The answer was $0. Still, the photo went viral. Not fashion viral, culture viral. Black Twitter caught it, and the reposts came fast. Someone tweeted, "Naomi Campbell if she grew up in the Bronx during peak Missy Elliott." And Tamia laughed so hard she screenshot it. The same fashion pages that once ignored her blog now bookmarked her fits. They didn't tag her, they didn't credit her, but she saw them and she smiled, because the walk they laughed at, they were about to see it, everywhere. It started with a DM, one line. "Hey, this is kind of wild, but are you available to style a shoot?" At first, Tamia thought it was spam. The account only had a few posts, but the profile pic looked familiar. Blue check. She clicked. It was real. The stylist worked with one of the biggest pop stars in the world, the kind who wore latex and diamonds in the same outfit and had dancers in chrome bodysuits. Tamia stared at the message for 5 minutes before replying, "Sure, when?" 2 weeks later, she was backstage at a tour shoot in Brooklyn, pinning a safety pin into the shoulder of a fur-lined denim jacket she'd Frankensteined from 3 thrift store coats and a pack of rhinestones. The pop star loved it, called it hood couture, wore it in 2 promo shots. The photos went up on Instagram that night. Tamia's tag was small, almost hidden, but people found it anyway. A tiny Parisian fashion zine emailed her 3 days later. "We want to do a spread on American underground fashion. Can we shoot you for the cover?" She said yes, then spent the next 48 hours sewing her own dress from upholstery fabric and deconstructing a pair of Timbs to make heels. The cover dropped in April. It wasn't glossy, it wasn't global, but it was hers, Her face, her stance, her Bronx rooftop in the background, her name printed in bold red letters, Tamia. Next came London. A streetwear designer DM'd her. Saw your blog, need your walk. No agency, no paperwork, just a ticket and a hotel name. She flew with a duffel bag and a head full of locks wrapped in silk. The show was in a warehouse, crowded and hot, the air full of weed smoke and camera flashes. She walked last. No makeup. Just gold hoops, ripped denim, and a cropped tank top that read, unbothered, in sequins. The audience screamed. Phones came out. Someone tagged her. Someone else reposted. Then came Milan. Then Paris. The shows got fancier. The lights got brighter. But Tamia didn't change. She still made her own outfits. Still walked with that same deliberate swing she'd perfected in her mother's hallway. Still looked straight down the lens like it owed her something. She didn't shrink. The rooms got louder around her, but she never turned the volume down on herself. Back in New York, the casting agencies started to ask questions. Quietly, whispered, "Have you seen her? She's everywhere now. Didn't we?" But they didn't say it aloud. Couldn't admit they'd called her too ghetto once. Couldn't believe the same girl with the thrifted heels was now front row at Fashion Week, getting pulled into photos by celebrities they begged to RSVP. Tamia never called Vogue. She didn't need them. They called her, and by then she didn't answer. The room looked smaller now, not physically, though the walls did feel closer than they used to, but spiritually. Years had passed, but the casting space was exactly the same. Same white walls, same long folding table draped in black linen, same nervous energy from the hallway outside. The air still smelled like perfume, nerves, and cheap coffee. But Tamia had changed. She entered the room in silence, her heels clicking slow, steady, deliberate. Her hair was a crown of locks, parted down one side, cascading like silk against her collarbone. Her outfit was custom Balenciaga, jet black, sharp-shouldered, stitched with her own monogram on the sleeve. Her name didn't need an introduction. It was already glowing in digital neon 2 blocks over in Times Square, printed on magazines, whispered on red carpets, painted on the sides of buses. Now it was printed on a nameplate in front of her, placed between 2 other judges who were just happy to share her spotlight. She sat slowly, her nails tapping the desk once before she folded her hands. The coordinator introduced her like a legend. Global fashion icon, creative director, cultural force. She'd been called many things lately. This was the first time the word judge felt correct. Models began to trickle in. Nervous girls with agency handlers, clutching comp cards, some with cheekbones that could cut glass, others too scared to look up from their shoes. Tamia gave each one her full attention. She remembered what it felt like to be on that mark, to be looked through, to be told thank you before even saying hello. Halfway through the day, the 3rd casting agent walked in. She hadn't been scheduled. She just stopped by, clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched on her head indoors, like she was too important for natural light. Tamia knew her instantly. The white woman's hair was shorter now, more styled, her jawline softer, a few more years behind her eyes. But the voice, slightly nasal, falsely polite, was unchanged. She sat beside Tamia without recognizing her. Not yet. Let's move quickly, the woman said. We've got another list coming in from LA and, oh, that girl's posture is awful. Next. She didn't even look at Tamia until the third girl had walked out. And then it happened. A glance, a second glance. Recognition flickered like a faulty bulb. Tamia smiled, small, tight, razor sharp. I remember you, she said, her voice soft and steady. You called me to ghetto once. Right there, she nodded toward the floor, where that girl just stood. The room froze. The woman's mouth parted slightly, but no sound came out. I didn't walk for you, Tamia continued, leaning forward, voice velvet over steel. But I still made it. Silence stretched for one long breath. Then someone in the back, maybe a young assistant, maybe one of the new scouts, clapped once, then again. Then the room filled with applause. Not polite, not performative, real. The woman beside her sat stiffly, hands folded, face pale beneath her makeup. Tamia turned back to the runway. There were more girls to see. They called her too ghetto. And then they called her a genius. It didn't happen overnight, but it didn't take long. Once the world caught up, it couldn't look away. Tamia didn't just break into fashion, she broke it open. What they once mocked became the mood board. The same braid cuffs they laughed at backstage? Now they were on runways in Milan. The denim cutouts, the oversized hoops, the street-laced layering, all of it once dismissed as loud, cheap, unrefined, was now in ad campaigns with six-figure budgets. They didn't evolve, she just made them pivot. The Met Gala called first, not through an assistant, through a direct message from a designer who'd built his whole comeback on silhouettes she pioneered. She arrived on the steps that year in a dress made of shattered mirrors, stitched by hand, lined with the same graffiti font that covered her neighborhood's corner bodega. Her train read, I was always enough. The carpet glared back in silence. Headlines didn't even try to play coy. Best dressed, most memorable, the moment. She didn't walk that night. She floated. Then came Vogue. Then again. Then again. Her first cover read, The future is loud. The second, Style has a new accent. By the fifth, they didn't bother with slogans. Just her name, just her face. Just the acknowledgement that the world didn't crown her. It noticed her, finally, once it couldn't afford not to. She didn't sign with any fashion house. They offered, all of them, but she turned them down until they agreed to give her full creative control. Not a face, not a muse, not a mannequin, a voice, a builder. And when they said yes, she built collections that sold out before they reached retail. Pieces inspired by laundry lines and school hallways, by subway tile and stoop steps. Luxury rooted in truth. Hood elegance stitched in silk. Brands that once turned her away now begged her to bless their launch parties. They copied her before they called her. But she showed up anyway, lips lined sharp, chin lifted high, and made them pay for her time. Not in apologies, in contracts. And then there was the lobby. The same casting agency that had laughed, that had tossed her out like a misfit with no filter, had undergone a full renovation. Sleek, minimalist, cold. But on one wall, stretching floor to ceiling, was a mural. Her, Tamia. Face full of gold light, gaze set like stone, wrapped in the coat she wore the first time she was ever told no. No caption, no quote, just a plaque at the base. The one who walked through anyway. She didn't become part of the industry. She made it orbit her. She didn't want to belong. She wanted to build something too big for them to gatekeep. And in the end, she wasn't just the exception. She was the example. The new standard, the blueprint.